This was a good start, a great start. I think she took some of my keywords already away. And very warm welcome, Ashok, to be out here. We already discussed a bit offline, so let's take it further from here. So as I was thinking about this event, and it was a very interesting, catchy line, and I started thinking about it in the more standard way that a consulting mind would. Right? But I think there are a few events that happened over the last couple of weeks which really threw interesting light on this topic, and I thought that's how we should probably engage in a conversation today. When I talked about brand, or when I thought about the brand, usually we start with brand, we talk about marketing, and we talk about, to some extent, we get into sales, or to some extent to the customer, to be honest, is almost forgotten when we talk about the brand. But what we realize today is brands aren't really built in these few steps or in these few areas. The brands are built across the touch points today. Right? So I would love to talk a bit about what's the relevance of the brand in this context doing. For example, I was with a large conglomerate, a team of people at senior management levels who started the conversation saying, we want to do something interesting as a workshop around brand building. And very few weeks later, the steer came that we want to actually focus on how could we use data effectively to understand our service touch points and build our brand back from service onwards back to marketing. And that was an interesting light that got shown in my mind, right? So no longer is brand being built at the top of the funnel, or however you want to use the marketing jargon, but frankly the brand is getting built all across the touch points, right? And hence each of you, whoever are brand custodians out here today, in some sense have your job suddenly expanded, I'm pretty sure, right? And some of you may feel excited, hopefully everybody does. And some of you, in addition to being excited, will also feel a bit of nervousness because suddenly you're being thrown into this world where you have to probably you have to control 7 billion plus people who could make or break your brand, which was never the case for a few years back. So that was the steer with which I'm just going to start the conversation, Ashok, and let me open up by hearing from you, especially because you represent a brand which is an iconic brand. It's almost like the pioneer, as I understand, in the paints industry. So it has its legacy, it has seen time and generations. What does the meaning of brand mean to you today? How is it changing for you?
Thank you, Samir. And hello, friends. Very nice of you to be here today. It's my pleasure to be talking to you. Shalimar Paints, as you know, is one of the earliest brands in the paint industry. And what to say about paint industry? It's one of the earliest brands in the country. And like everything else in the world, brands also evolve. They change a lot. Humans change a lot. Nature changes a lot. And so do brands. And we at Shalimar Paints have seen this happening. There was a point of time when we will be only talking of paint. You cover your wall and you will have a nice wall. You talk about product. Today you won't see that. In subsequent years, the attribute of a paint changed to the customer, you. For example, we came with a slogan, Khwab okay, Rang Hamare. So we shifted from product or a paint to you, the consumer. Today, even that is gone, bygone. Today it's about social impact. Today it's about how do you as a brand have a personality? Who are you? Nobody's talking of product. Nobody's talking of how much area you will cover. Nobody's talking of how bright your colors will be. People are talking of our today logo is Har Rang Khoobsurat. We're talking of inclusiveness. See how the brands are changed, how the thinking has changed. We are no longer talking of what a wonderful paint I make. What else may be bothering about? That's taken for granted. Today people are talking of what do you stand for. So from a product, the brands have become a person. They have a personality of their own. Today any brand in the country or in the world has a personality, is no longer a product. I think that is the biggest change which has taken place. It's a very complex thing now. And people are not only looking at what your product will do or what your image is, how good the performance is, they're looking at you as an organization. Whether you are transparent, whether you bother about the environment. I'm not sure. Today, European Union has said that in case you want to export something to us, please tell us your carbon footprint. So by that, I have no alternative but to become environmental friendly. So brands have to become environmental friendly. Organizations, one wrong statement by somebody in my office, some wrong statement. Recently you saw somebody in the parliament giving one wrong statement and the whole party is in a mess. This is what happens today. So each and every aspect of our life has become associated with the brand. This is a change which has happened. So what has happened is now, as a brand manager, I have to think not only of my product, but I have to think of my philosophy in life, my values, my ethics, and more than that, how each person in my organization lives those ethos, lives those values. I think this is the biggest change which has taken place over the years.
Wow, I think that's a very, very comprehensive answer to how brands are changing. And if I steer into a bit further and try and double click or scoop in from that answer, to try and understand that, let's take a data point for example, right? When the word unicorn was coined a decade or so back, there were no unicorns in India. There were few in US. Today we are 100 plus, right? These are brands also. So just imagine there are 100 plus brands that have got created in less than a decade.
Yeah.
And there are brands like yours and many others who are here representing those brands which are there for centuries, right? So what does that tell you? In what way is it easier and in what way is it difficult to develop a brand?
Yeah, things have changed too fast. In fact, somebody asked me the other day, is it becoming easier to do things? I said, yeah. It's becoming easier to have a marriage and still easier to have a divorce. Things are happening so fast. And this show is about branding. Rightly you said about unicorns. See, this is a role which technology is playing. And this is bound to happen in every part of our life. I have a niece who is 1.5 years old. And at 1.5 years old, she knows how to operate iPad. This is the speed. And this is the speed of branding as well. In this age of digital age and data science, if you want to create a brand, you don't have to tom-tom about yourself all over the country. You select your target, have low investment, and you can become a brand in your target market. And if your target market is right, you can become a unicorn. This is what is being done by those who are startups, by those who are established. You'll be surprised to know that today, even the largest brands, they are not taking care of the entire population. They are targeting themselves. Okay, today, I have to focus only on tier 2 city of this kind of customers who are this age group. This is the level of targeting happens. So you become popular there, you can create a brand there, and particularly if those target market and your own ethos. So the important thing is synchronization. That target market and your philosophy has to match. If there is a mismatch, so I feel that today's world, you have to look at insight first of all. Having looked inside, target your market, and once your target is right, I think then the rest of all is a story of communication. It's about your philosophy, your ethos, your values, then finding the same connect in the market, in the consumer group, and then giving the right communication. And within no time, you can establish a brand.
So talk a bit about, especially again taking your vantage point, an iconic brand being there, seen a lot, and then there are new age brands coming up. Plus there are layers and layers of people who are playing in this whole value chain. Paints is one, but if you look at some of the others like food and groceries and similar sectors where there's layers and layers, there is quick commerce which is actually becoming the closest layer to the customer, and the brands almost are a couple of steps behind. So what does this mean for you? The opacity of the brand. How do you deal with that? And what is your viewpoint about how large brands which are established should work towards ensuring that they are able to address? Nobody is going to be able to do away with it. But how do you really take a stand in such a situation?
Okay, so you see, social media today crosses all levels. You may have layers of your distribution. The communication doesn't have to pass through those layers. At a point of time, we had limited means of communication. And the communication was primarily you have on a TV, or you had a hoarding, or you had a point of sales. Today, you have a wide spectrum of facilities available. So it's easier for any organization, for any brand to reach directly to consumer. And understand, it was a one-way communication earlier. It is a two-way communication. I think this is the biggest change which has happened. Forget the layers of you may have in between. Today, a consumer is able to communicate with you in the shortest possible time, and you are able to respond back. Whether it is social media or it is any other means you are applying. So I think in today's world, it's becoming much easier for brands to approach a target. Having said so, it's also becoming equally easier for others to reach him. So the life of a brand reduces. So what you have to do is go on finding out things which are of interest to him, and your two-way communication helps you. So I think all that which is happening, the technology is helping us. If we make use of that, right from data point, from AI, from machine learning, to targeted communication and experience. Today it's no longer about communication alone. Experience is more important. So it's not only a communication. How do you create that experience? Today we never thought in our life that people will be looking for experiencing. We have recently developed an app where it's possible for you to sit in your house and imagine and route colors of each wall, what color it should be, and then see before even applying a single brush how my house will look. And how my house will look not by walls, by the furniture it has, by the curtain it has, by the people it has. So this is technology. This is experience. So I think all those layers as you were talking about have been kind of overtaken by technology.
Excellent. And so if I take the last question and try and take it to the last step also. So from your point of view, to do this essentially from a brand perspective, and especially legacy brands who have an heritage, who have a certain mindset and capabilities, what would be that one capability? I know there are many, but the non-BAU capabilities where you would invest asymmetrically to ensure that you are able to actually leverage this wave, of how you could build your brand differently. Which area would you really invest asymmetrically?
I think today the most important thing has become is to understand the mind of my consumer. What is it that pains him? What is that he is looking for? And how he will react. Any step of mine, whether it is innovation, whether it is my message, whether it is my philosophy, whether it's my values, whether it's my people, how does my consumer, my target reacts to those? I think reading his mind is my most important thing and the most difficult thing. Because as they say, reading a mind, not everybody can do it. So today we are investing a lot in finding out how people react to every single aspect of our life. Our name, our social impact. More than the product today, people are bothered about what you are doing for society. Are you taking care of people? Are you taking care of your own labor? Are you taking care of them in your neighborhood? whether it's the environment or the village where your factory is, these things are becoming important. So I think what we look at is understanding the mind of our consumer.
Excellent. I think you really set the stage for tonight. I think you talked about 6 or 7 very unique things put together. If I just summarize, we talked about the expansion of the brand definition, all the way to inclusivity and talking about the entire in sustainability, inclusivity. All of these agendas are part and parcel of your brand. You talked about how the whole relevance of brand is changing and the speed at which it is changing, and the importance of still staying true to who you are, to be able to build a real strong brand. That continues to stay. I think that core values do not change. But how do you really effectively change your internal capabilities? And one of the core capabilities you eventually talked about, I think I completely give the same, I would endorse that heavily, that understanding your customer and whatever it means to do that, whether it's analytics, whether it is putting more and more people on the ground to understand interface and building that feedback, all of that. Thank you. I think this was an excellent conversation.